Good afternoon, boys and girls clubs. My name is Laurie Hernandez, and I am live at the Thomas S. Murphy Clubhouse in Brooklyn, New York. As you know, this is National Boys and Girls Club Week, and today is Wellness Wednesday, and we are focusing on mental health. Growing up can be hard for everyone, but today's kids are facing so much, from a pandemic, civil unrest, and racial inequality, community violence, and social pressures online. It's no surprise that we are feeling stressed. Mental health is a hot topic, but an important topic. My mom is a social worker and a therapist. My sister's a therapist, and especially being a professional athlete, I've had my fair share of sharing my biggest fears and learning how to cope with them. I know that my mental health and wellness are just as important as my physical health and fitness. Boys and Girls Clubs equip young people with the skills they need to cope with their emotions and build resiliency so they can engage in every opportunity that comes their way. Today, I am joined by 5 amazing teens from the Thomas S. Murphy Clubhouse, and we are going to talk about mental health and get you to be a part of our conversation too. I hope while we're talking, you'll learn something and it'll inspire you to take those extra steps to make sure you're doing okay. How about you each introduce yourselves and we'll get started with our conversation today.
Hello, my name is Simon. I'm 16 years old. I've been going to the Boys and Girls Club for 6 or 7 years now, and I'm a sophomore in high school.
Hi, my name is Phoenix. I'm 16. I've been going to the club since I was in 5th grade. I'm a sophomore in high school now.
Hi, my name is Crystal. I'm 18. I'm getting ready to graduate high school, and I've been going to the club for about 4 to 5 years now.
Hi, my name is Caden. I'm 17. I'm a junior in high school, and I've been going to the club for about 9 years by now.
Hi, my name is Judy. I'm 16 years old, and I'm a sophomore in high school.
Thank you guys. So happy to be having this conversation with you today. So let's jump right in. The last 2 years have been a whirlwind. There has been so much going on. So tell me about your experience throughout the pandemic.
Throughout the pandemic, it's been rough in the beginning because due to online school, I wasn't as aware of how to join classes, how to access the homework, and also there was a family problem I was going through too. So when the moment after a month or so, when I found out how to access the online classes, all the homework, it was stressful because I had to deal with all the makeup work and going through family problems.
That sounds like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Going through the pandemic for me was a rocky road because in the beginning I was transitioning from 8th grade into high school, and I missed out on a lot of my 8th grade year, and it was hard because I wasn't used to being in the house like all the time. Like I couldn't go anywhere. So from having to wear a mask, from having to quarantine in the house, it was hard. And then towards the end of 2020, I had lost my uncle, which was pretty hard. So then it's okay. So then transitioning into my 10th grade year, it was hard, but then I eventually got the hang of it. So right now I'm doing pretty good.
I'm proud of y'all for being here today and for going through that, but it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're almost back to a normal routine. I can only imagine what it felt like this year to return back to school, go to events, graduations, and dances. Let's talk about what that's like. What has it been like to transition back to a regular routine?
Well, transitioning back to a regular routine has been hard for me because during quarantine, I was used to being on Zoom classes. So it's like you wake up and you join, you're right in the class. So now my sleep schedule is all messed up. It's like now I have to wake up earlier to bathe and get ready and then go to school to then get to the class, but it's not the same thing. So it's like, it was hard for me just getting back in the groove, getting back in my time.
Yeah, it's hard because you're also in one pattern. Now you have to switch into the next thing on top of new schoolwork, new class. Yeah, that's a lot.
Transitioning was hard for me, especially socially, because I'm not known as a social butterfly. Mm-hmm. And since we were in a pandemic doing Zoom classes, it was kind of hard for me to socialize with my peers and, feel a part of the class.
Yeah.
And so now that we are in school, it's a little bit weird because everybody wants to engage in what you're doing because everybody wants to engage in what you're doing because they're not over a screen anymore. It's in person.
Yeah, and it's the point, or a really big point of school is to be able to connect with others, especially when you're young and you go throughout high school. So to have to learn how to do that through Zoom, and then to get thrown back into a public space where you're around your peers, your friends, your classmates, it can be like being tossed into cold water a little bit, but you're doing great and you're here.
Thank you.
Good job. So how has BGC supported you through this transition?
Well, with the Boys and Girls Club being in my life for such a short period of time, they actually have affected me in an amazing, positive way. I entered high school during quarantine. I was probably about a sophomore, so only being able to go to basically high school, start off high school within quarantine, and now I'm finishing it. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
So the Boys and Girls really was able to help me through that. They had sessions where I would be able to talk to them. There was a point where during quarantine I actually celebrated my birthday on quarantine, and they threw a whole party. It was amazing. So it made me feel really wanted, especially going through depression during that time frame. So now I really can consider them family because they've been there for me.
It sounds like they give you a lot of really good resources that you needed at the time.
They did.
That's super cool, and I'm so glad that your club has been there for you. We're here to talk about mental health. So what words come to mind when you hear mental health?
Personally, for me, mental health has a lot to do with confidence and loved ones. So that's how I see it as mental health.
Yeah, I love that.
When I think of mental health, I think of the way I see myself and sometimes the way I view the world.
I love that.
To me, mental health is your mindset, which is affected through your outside circumstances and emotions.
To me, mental health is when you're feeling alone and you have to like realize how to cope with yourself.
To me, when I think about mental health, I think about the stigma and the way there's no awareness around how mental health affects different people.
Yeah. Thank you all for the wonderful and vulnerable answers. I thought they were great, and I relate to all of them. There are some amazing clubs out there creating programs and supporting their kids. I was so impressed to read about Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Ohio and its suicide prevention program. They were recently featured on the front page of the Columbus Dispatch. Let's pause for a moment and hear from one of the Boys and Girls Clubs that has focused on mental health throughout the pandemic and continues to support kids and families in their communities.
Hi, my name is Caden Samuel. I'm 17 years old, and I am the 2022 Youth of the Year for the Thomas S. Murphy Clubhouse in Brooklyn. I became a Clubhouse member when I was 8 years old, and the Clubhouse took me from a shy, insecure boy to a confident young man who can recognize and express his emotions. There is a lot of stigma around male mental health and the lack of support and resources for men, and I want to work to change that and to encourage men to discuss their feelings and feel supported doing so. At the club, you'll often find me in the gym playing basketball or flag football. When I'm not on the courts, I'm participating in programs like Passport to Manhood, Towards No Drugs, STEM, Torch Club, and others. The Clubhouse has acted as a safe space for me, and it feels like a second home. The lessons I have learned here have allowed me to understand so much and to value my own worth as well.
Our little group grew over the break. We are now joined by mental health professional Dr. ARIANA HOET, Clinical Director of On Our Sleeves, and Boys and Girls Club, Senior Director of Partnerships and Growth, Amanda RUCKEL. Thank you for joining us. Your point of view is extremely important in this conversation, so we can answer questions teens have about mental health with your expertise on club resources and mental health.
Hi, I'm Dr. ARIANA HOET, the Clinical Director of On Our Sleeves. We are a national movement for children's mental health with a mission to give free resources to all communities in the U.S. on how to support the mental health of the children in their lives. We partner with organizations such as Boys and Girls Club of America to give curriculums and resources to any adult with a child in their life to help promote their mental health and well-being.
I'm Amanda RUCKEL, and I work at Boys and Girls Clubs of America on our field operations team. And we support all of the great work that local clubs do by providing programming, resources, and training to staff and teens. Specifically, I work with our partners to make sure we have the funding and support in the most important areas, like mental health.
Okay, Dr. HOET, let's start off with a simple but big question. How do you define mental health?
Yeah, that's actually a complicated question. We heard from all of you all earlier, and you all defined it differently, and that's what we see, right? People define mental health as being well, the health piece, being able to cope with life stressors and succeed in our goals, but some people define it as the mental illness. You know, you think of mental health diagnoses like depression or anxiety. And then, you know what, on our sleeves, we talk about the whole continuum. Mental health is our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, how we interact with others. sometimes our emotions get in the way, they get really strong, and we may not be able to make the choices we want to make, and that's when we need a little extra help. But the important part to remember is we all have emotions and we all have mental health.
We asked teens to submit some questions, and I know our panel here may have some questions too. One question that came in is for both of you. I would love to hear your perspective from club resources to external resources for kids. Where can I go if I'm struggling with sadness or anxiousness? And how do I know if I need to check in on my mental health? Amanda, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the first thing that is so important to know is that you're not alone. So many people are experiencing this right now. Kids, teens, and even adults are struggling with this. But the good news is that there are people that are willing and able to help, especially at local clubs. What we're seeing right now is a lot of local clubs are actually doubling down on the work that they're doing in the mental health space. So everything from hiring professional social workers to doing programs for teens on how they can develop good coping skills to also training staff and teens in mental health first aid. Clubs are really starting to realize that they stand in a really important space in providing resources to young people. And so the first thing and the hardest thing to do is to ask for help. All clubs, no matter what their programs are, have caring adults who can be mentors and he either can connect you to the resources at clubs or can help you find the resources outside of the club.
And to add to what Amanda's saying, when we're going through something stressful, feeling upset, we can't think straight, right? It's hard to come up with a solution. And so think ahead to who that trusted person is and just have that person on your mind. Like, I know this person at club or at school or my neighborhood and my family that I know I can go to, so that when you are stressed, you don't really have to think much about it. You can just go straight to them. And I heard Laurie ask the second question of how do I know when I need to reach out to someone? I mean, really, whenever you need support, don't be afraid to share. It's important we talk about how we're feeling. I heard you mention stigma earlier, right? And we're sometimes afraid to share that we're going through a hard time, but it's important that you find that person that you do trust. But also look for when it becomes a little bit more, you know, we all feel emotions, but sometimes I'm feeling a strong emotion every day. And it's been 2 weeks and I'm still feeling it. I don't feel like I'm in control. I can't make it stop. And it's getting in the way. I'm not doing well at school anymore. I'm not socializing anymore. And those are all signs that maybe it's becoming a little bit more than that just typical emotion we all feel.
That's amazing. Okay, y'all, jump in here. What questions do you have?
I was wondering, how do I talk to a friend about mental health? For example, if I had a friend who was going through depression, how can I contribute to helping them get through their depression? Like, how can I go to somebody and tell them what they're going through without betraying their trust?
That's a really good question. I'm going to give you 3 steps. First is pick the right time. You want to pick a time when there's no distractions, you're having a private space, and ask permission. You know, I've been worried about you. Are you willing to talk right now? If your friend says no, then ask them, okay, when is a good time? And hold them to that, right? So maybe they feel a little bit more prepared and not thrown off guard that, whoa, you want to talk about this. And then the second step is just bring up your worry without judgment. Just kind of state what you're noticing and ask that open-ended question. So maybe you say, I've noticed you don't want to hang out as much anymore. Or I've noticed that you haven't done the sport that you normally like to do. Or whatever change you've noticed in them. And then just ask, is there something bothering you? Is there something going on? Is there something I can help you with? And just open that conversation. And then the third step, you asked, how do I get them help? How do I support them without breaking their trust? And that's very important, right? You want to kind of problem solve together. Ask your friend, what do you need? How do you want to move forward? How can we find you help? And see who they think is a trusted person to talk to. If your friend is really like, I don't want to talk to anyone, keep this private, then maybe saying, you know, I'm really worried and I don't want this to get worse, and trying to suggest maybe we talk to this counselor or this mentor. And I would say usually you want to respect what they're asking unless you're worried about safety. So if they've shared things and you're really concerned about their safety, maybe they're having thoughts of suicide or self-harm, then you can say, you know, I know trust is important and I don't want to break our trust, but I really want to make sure you're safe. So I'm going to tell, and then you choose the adult you're going to talk about. You can come with me, I'll go by myself, but kind of taking away that option to make sure you keep them safe.
So when going through any type of mental health, is there any type of recommendations of how to cope with that or how to go through it in an amazing time or so? If that involves like exercising is what I heard helps, or cooking.
Yeah, exercise is one great tool, but it's really only one tool in your kind of self-care toolbox if you want to think about it like that. And it's important to remember that we're all unique and different, and that different tools might help us at different times. So if exercise works for you, that's great, but there are a lot of other things, from meditation to creative writing to making and creating art. And the great thing is clubs offer a lot of different programs in a lot of those different spaces. So I really encourage you to explore some of those programs, find some of those things that work for you, so that, you know, when you go through tough times and when you need kind of to pull something out of your self-care toolbox, you can use those experiences.
Thank you.
And if I may jump in as well, as a pro athlete, one of the most common things is making sure that our minds and our bodies are connected. So if our brains and our mental health is a bit rocky, then I'll notice that practice or competitions go a lot shakier than I had hoped. The hard part is, for professional athletes or for those who might be student athletes or just athletes in general, stress can sometimes be contributed to our sport. And the hard part is that you want that mind-body connection. So doing things like yoga and meditation to stay connected, that was something that was really helpful, along with creative writing. That's one of my favorites too. Another question from our audience: what's up with the stigma behind mental health?
Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, I think a lot of people assume that mental health just happens to a small group of people, or mental health problems, right? In reality, we know that 1 in 5 children have a mental health diagnosis, and most of, or 50% of mental health diagnoses happen by the age of 14. So thinking that that's just for some kids or some people, that's not true. And some people are afraid to talk about it too, because they feel like maybe I'll be judged, or parents will feel like maybe I did something wrong. And that's not the reality. I mean, we talked earlier that we all have emotions, and we all have thoughts, and we all have life experiences, which you mentioned earlier, that affects how we feel. And so the reality is that there's no one to blame here. We just are humans, and life can be stressful and cause those mental health concerns.
Yeah, thank you. Let's take a last question that was submitted and probably helpful for all the parents out there. How can parents support their teens, and what role does a parent play in their child's mental health?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think for parents who have kids at a club, really reaching out to the club professionals in their local area is really important, because they can help connect them to those local resources. But another opportunity for parents everywhere, regardless of whether they have a kid or a teen at a Boys and Girls Club, is our Club Experience blog. And people can find that just by Googling Club Experience. There are over 50 different blog posts about mental health, and it provides resources, tools, things like that for parents, guardians, other people who work with young people, to really provide the resources to have those conversations. One in particular that really comes to mind for me is one that came out in October of last year, talking about social media's impact on young women. And I think we all can relate and all can experience, either from ourselves or from other people, the role that social media can play in our mental health. And that's a really great example of one that talks through the different issues, but also provides parents with 3 simple steps to really walk through with young people on how to manage the confidence, really decrease negative self-talk, and then also have the selfie talk with their teens, right? And the importance that social media plays in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you asked, part of the question is, what role do parents have in children's mental health? And research actually shows that the relationship between a parent and a child, or a child and a caregiver, is so important in children's mental health. It's what we call a protective factor, so it helps us against stressors that life may bring. So one of the things we often recommend is conversations, right? Having conversations, daily check-ins with children, of just making it a habit to talk to each other, not just when you're worried, not just when something's going wrong, but just daily building that relationship together. And then when something comes up, it's easier to check in. And On Our Sleeves, that's part of what we do. We offer step-by-step guidance on how to have those conversations and just how to get kids talking.
Let's end with our experts each sharing a tip that we can take into our day-to-day lives to manage our mental health.
I'm gonna say something I know we're all tired of hearing, but I'm a psychologist and I still am not good at this, which is sleep, right? We all take our phones to bed, our tablets, screens, And we just know that sleep is connected to our mood. If we don't sleep enough, we're irritable, we're anxious, we can get sad. And unfortunately, we're so distracted by the screens that our sleep is often not enough. And so I say the first place to start, nothing is gonna work if you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, and I would just say it's really important to build a community around you of people you trust, and that can be a mix of your friends, it could be family members, it can be club staff or school teachers, people who you really trust in that community, and people to build that strong relationship with, who you not only get to do fun things with and enjoy life with, but when things get really hard, you'll have those people to lean on, and they'll really know and understand you, and you have a trusted person to go to if you're struggling a little bit, and they're gonna listen to you without judgment. So I think building that beforehand, before challenges come up, can be really, really helpful.
Amanda and Dr. HOET, thank you so much for answering all our questions today. It may be helpful for us to also note several emergency numbers. We'll put them up on the screen here. Use these numbers to get immediate help for yourselves or for a friend. It can make a difference. The phone number for a trusted friend or relative. The crisis text line, 741-741. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK. If you or someone you know needs immediate help, call 911 or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. We also have a great document that BGCA and Nationwide Children's Hospital put together, and we will share that with the link in the comments below. Today's program was sponsored by Boys and Girls Club partner KPMG. They put together an awesome program called The Heart of Your Health. The latest episode in KPMG's virtual field trip series is an interactive edutainment video that teaches children and teens like you about how physical fitness, mental health, and self-reflection are essential to living a healthy life. I serve as a learning ambassador and host this series with guest speakers from KPMG and a mental health expert to guide you through physical activities, mental health exercises, and self-reflection practices. Check out our latest season on YouTube. Hey there! My name is Laurie Hernandez, and I am so excited to take you all on another journey, one we can learn from and apply to in our own lives. As a gymnast, heart health is very important to me, and it should be to you too. The heart is what helps you to function as a human being, and it is so important that we keep it healthy our whole lives. Without the heart and the blood in your veins, the air you breathe and the food you eat would have no way of activating your mind and body. In the heart of your health, we will discuss and practice exercises related to physical fitness, mental health, and self-reflection to improve the health of your heart and your body as a whole. Physical fitness can allow you to jump higher and run faster, while caring for your mental health can allow you to get better grades, be more creative, and most importantly, take care of the inner you. Plus, learn how self-reflection can help you manage stress, have better relationships, and set personal goals. This is KPMG Virtual Field Trips. Can't wait to see you there. So cool, right? I want to thank all of our club kids that joined us today, our mental health expert, Dr. HOET, and Amanda from Boys and Girls Clubs of America. This was such a good conversation and much needed. Thank you to the Thomas S. Murphy Clubhouse for hosting us today, and a special thank you to each of you that tuned in. Please visit bgca.org/mentalhealth and check out the resources and blog posts about mental health, and follow BGCA on social media. Let's keep the party going. Next up on BGC Week is Career Day. Join us back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for a workforce readiness panel to help you pave the road to great futures. Thanks for having me, Boys and Girls Clubs. You really do whatever it takes to build great futures.